Good evening, friends. There seems to be some technical problem, and I'm not a very tech-savvy man, so please bear with me for a few minutes. If any one of you can write that, you can see me and you can hear me, then, we can start. Just bear with me for 30 seconds and I'm just checking in case you are able to see me and hear me. I'll just start immediately. The good thing about technology is that sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. So it was not working, but I hope that now things have been sorted out. It's my fault that I'm not tech savvy, but hopefully I'll try to learn. The world is becoming too much dependent on technology, so I should also catch up. So let's start this evening's program, and at the beginning I would like to say that I'm not an expert like many of us. I have a passion. I would like to know more about different things in life. I'm interested in a number of things, and food is one thing which has fascinated me. And more than food, it is the history of food, how it originated over the years, and how it evolved, and how it became an integral part of our civilization. That is what has interested me, and I'm very thankful to my brothers and sisters in PKG for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this evening's program. We have been planning this evening for program for a very, very long time, and hopefully I'll be able to live up to your expectations. There are some members I can see who have joined us this evening, and I welcome all of them. I hope all of you all have taken vaccine. It is very important. It is very important that we should take vaccine, and all those who have taken vaccine, it is equally important for them to take all the necessary precautions. So this evening, I'll be talking on a subject which is slightly different. I'll be talking on the influence of the Mughlai food on the great Indian vegetarian cuisine. When we talk about Mughlai food, the general impression is that it's all about meat. You think about Babur, you think about Akbar, you think about Shah Jahan, you think about Mughlai food, and you can't think anything beyond meat. But the fact is that the Mughlai food is, of course, a sizable portion of Mughlai food is based on meat. But at the same time, there are so many vegetarian dishes also. And I hope now I'm more audible. And this evening I'll be talking on how the Mughlai cuisine affected the Indian vegetarian cuisine. I don't consider India to be just a country. For me, India is mini universe. Perhaps there's no other country in the world which offers so many diversity in terms of forest, in terms of river, in terms of language, in terms of cuisine, in terms of costume, in terms of caste, class, dialect. Every 50 kilometer the dialect changes, and it's amazing. There's diversity in climate, there's diversity in class, and that is why I consider India to be a mini universe. Right from the time of Indus Valley civilization, India played a leading role in global economy. We had trade relations with Mesopotamia, we had trade relations with Far East, and India was always considered to be an important land. People came to our country from different parts of the world. For example, when Europeans came to India, they brought tomatoes, pineapples, cashew, potatoes, and chilies. And all these added a new dimension to our cuisine. It became richer, it became more enchanting, it became more delicious, and over a period of time, Indian cuisine became an integral part of the world cuisine. This evening I'll be talking on the influence of the Mughlai cuisine on the vegetarian dishes that we have in India. And for that, we have to go back about 500 years in history. It all started with Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur, who was the first Mughal emperor to come to our country. Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur, I find Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur to a fascinating character in Indian history. He was a man who was a ruler of a tiny kingdom in Fergana. He lost Fergana, he captured Samarkand, he lost Samarkand, he came to Kabul, and at the invitation of two local Indian rulers, Rana Sangha of Mewar and Daulat Khan Lodi, he came to Hindustan. And in the decisive battle in 1526, he defeated Ibrahim Khan Lodi, and he established what was named as the Mughal dynasty. Babur was a very brave warrior, and he was a talented poet. He was a very sensitive memorialist, and he was also a devotee of and planter of garden. The good thing about Babur is that he wrote his autobiography, and from his autobiography we came to know a number of things. But the difference in Babur was that he wrote an autobiography which was very frank. There are very few people who could write such a free and frank autobiography. Babur was one of them. When Babur came to India, he admitted that he did not like the Indian food, and he preferred the food, especially the fruits of Samarkand. And there's a place in his autobiography where he writes that there's no good flesh, no grapes, no muskmelon, no good fruits, no good bread or food in their bazaar, he grumbles. And Babur always was in a nostalgic mood. He thought about Fergana, he thought about Samarkand, and he missed his native land. After Babur defeated Ibrahim Khan Lodi, Babur called 50 chefs of Ibrahim Khan Lodi, and he took their interview. And out of those 50 chefs, he selected 4 of them. And these 4 became a part of the Babur's kitchen. Babur did something accidentally. He told these chefs, who were local chefs, he told these chefs to cook Central Asian food, cooking using Indian ingredients. Most of the ingredients that were available at that point of time were local. So just imagine these chefs who were from Hindustan, they started cooking Central Asian food, and most of the ingredients that they used were all local. So it was a beautiful synthesis of Central Asian food being cooked by Hindustani chefs using mainly Indian ingredients. And that set the tone for the establishment of what we now know as the Mughlai cuisine. Babur also discovered that it was possible to cultivate grapes and melons and muskmelon in Hindustan. And he established a supply chain so that he could get fruits and seeds from Samarkand in Central Asia. I often wonder if Babur would not have come to Hindustan, how different our history would have been. There would have been no Red Fort, there would have been no Jama Masjid, there would have been no Chandni Chowk, there would have been no Taj Mahal, and perhaps, most importantly, there would have been no Mughlai food. Babur did not live long to see what Hindustan was all about. He died in 1530 and he was being succeeded by Humayun. Humayun came to throne, and Humayun loved sharbat, and he was very fond of sharbat, so he used to drink sharbat of various fruits. And in those days, we didn't had sharbat in bottles, so everything was, freshly made for Humayun. And of course, he was the emperor of Hindustan, so you can understand that how fresh fruits were being given to him. Humayun also introduced dry fruits and nuts in his food. It was mainly in sauces, in rice, and in curry. History at times becomes very, very fascinating, and this is what I like about history. In a decisive battle which Humayun fought with Sher Shah Suri, the Battle of Kannauj, Humayun lost, and he had to run away from Hindustan. And he took refuge in a place called Thatta, which is in modern day Sindh, and he lived there for quite some time. It is not very well known that one of the wives of Humayun was a woman called Hamida Banu. So when Humayun saw Hamida Banu for the first time, Humayun must have been about 33 years old, and this girl Hamida Banu, who was the daughter of a Persian Sufi saint, was about 13 or 14 years old. There was a lot of age difference between Humayun and Hamida Banu. It has been said that on seeing Hamida Banu, who was supposed to be very, very beautiful, Humayun fell in love with her. And like many kings, emperors and nawabs, he wanted to marry Hamida Banu. But Hamida Banu was not interested in marrying Humayun. She knew that a king without a kingdom can be very, very authoritative. She was looking for a companion, not for a king. And she refused. But Humayun went on, and this courtship lasted for about 40-45 days. And finally, under a lot of pressure, Hamida Banu finally had to succumb, and she agreed to marry Humayun. So after this marriage, they went to Persia, and where Humayun lived for about 15 years. It is in Persia where Humayun picked up a lot of Persian influence. And in Persia, as you know, it has been known for its sophistication, refinement. Even today, if you compare the Muslim world, when I say Muslim world, I mean the Persian world and the Arab world, you'll find a distinction, a very, very sharp distinction. The Persian world is known for its refinement, for its sophistication, for its decency. I'll come to it later in my talk. One of the things that Humayun picked was the use of saffron. Dear friends, we all know that Persia, our very own Kashmir and Spain are the major producers of saffron. And over there, Humayun was first being introduced to the liberal use of saffron. On his return to India, Humayun came with a lot of Persian chefs. And since they were being used to cooking food using saffron, the same was introduced in our country. Saffron grows in Kashmir in our country, and those of you who have been fortunate to visit Kashmir must have seen the saffron field. It looks very, very beautiful. We had prepared some slide for this evening's program, but because of some problem we are unable to show the slide. And I have a feeling that the famous Persian poet Amir Khusro, who lived in 13th, 14th century, who is very well known for his couplet which says, Gar firdaus baru zaminas, hami asto, hami nasto, hami nasto, which means that, if there is heaven on earth, it is here, it is here, it is here. He said about Kashmir, he found Kashmir to be an extremely beautiful place. My personal feeling is that he must have definitely seen the saffron field, the field where saffron grows. And just to give you all an idea of about saffron, even in those days saffron was considered to be very, very expensive, and it was being sold in units of masha. One masha would be about 1.26 grams. Yeah, 1.26 gram was considered to be one masha. So you can understand that how expensive it was even in those days. It has been said about 1,65,000 stigmas are being plucked to produce 1 kg of saffron, and that is why saffron is so expensive, and it is considered to be a rare commodity. And of course it's known for its fragrance, its aroma, and the color that it emits. And when Humayun chefs started using saffron, it was also being used in a lot of vegetarian dishes and also in sweet dishes. And today we find that saffron is used in n number of dishes, and that is why some of the dishes are so delicious. Humayun, once again, when he came to India, he did not live long, and Humayun was succeeded by Akbar. And it was during Akbar's reign that the Mughlai cuisine truly evolved into a world-class cuisine. Akbar did a lot of things which laid the foundation of a very, very rich cultural movement in our country. And Akbar was a man who was a great administrator. So one of the things that Akbar did was he introduced the use of hing, asafoetida. We all have hing kachori, which is very, very delicious, and it was being introduced by Akbar. There are some community in North India, it may be in other parts of the country also, but mainly in North India, who do not eat onion and garlic, and these community use hing in their cooking. So when hing is being cooked in oil, it gives you the flavor of onion and garlic. So you get the flavor of onion and garlic without actually having onion and garlic, and that is how hing became an important part of our cuisine. Hing grows in dry climate, and hing was used in large quantity. Akbar was a man who was a very strong ruler, and at that time, perhaps the Mughal Empire was at its zenith. Akbar had employed 400 cooks. There used to be a team of 400 cooks who would cook for Akbar. He would give his cooks an hour's notice, and Akbar was a man who was very, very health conscious. It has been said that 100 dishes were being served to Akbar, and he used to eat only once a day. The time was not fixed, it could be any time in the day, and he would get up before he was totally full. This is very important from scientific point of view also, and this is what the Islam's Prophet Muhammad had also taught us 1400 years ago, that you should not fully satisfy your hunger. There should be, by that just before you are totally satisfied, you must get up, because it helps in digestion. And that is what Akbar did. Akbar was also a man, who at one point of time he used to become, he had become vegetarian 3 times a week. On 3 days in a week, he used to have veg food. Akbar had a lot of, matrimonial alliances, because he wanted to extend the Mughal Empire, and because of that he married some of these Rajput princes. And the most famous of them was Jodhabai. Many films have been made in different languages which celebrates the birth, which celebrates the marriage of Akbar with Jodhabai. And Jodhabai, when she came into Akbar's life, she introduced a lot of Rajasthani culture. And one of them was, very interestingly, the Panchratan Dal. or it's also called the Panchmel Dal. It's a dal, which is made using 5 different dals, and it became an important part of the Mughal cuisine at that point of time. And so much so that, even now, when we talk about Mughlai cuisine, Panchmel Dal is also considered to be a delicacy. And it was being carried on by other rulers also, because Panchmel Dal, number one, it's very delicious, it's very nutritious, and the very fact that, you're adding 5 dals to it, it adds a very, very distinct flavor to it. We all know about Akbar's 9 gems, the Nauratan. People like Raja Todarmal, Birbal, Tansen, Raja Maan Singh, and Abu Fazl. In the honor of these 9 great geniuses, 2 important dishes were being, I don't know if the word invent would be the correct word, but 2 important dishes were being created in honor of these 9 men. One was the Nauratan Pulao, and the other one is the Nauratan Khorma. And both these dishes were vegetarian dishes. The Nauratan Pulao is a pulao, it's like any other pulao, but it has been made with, different types of vegetables. Ideally, it should be made with 9 types of vegetables, but depending on the season, you may not get 9 vegetables, but a lot of people add about 7 to 8 vegetables. And Nauratan Pulao was also considered to be an important part of the Mughlai cuisine. Then you had Nauratan Korma, which is once again a korma, a curry, which is made with different types of vegetables, and there's a lot of gravy. So these were the things which Akbar did, and it laid the foundation of a very strong Mughlai cuisine, and which was being followed by other people. Akbar was very fond of fruits and vegetables. He had his own kitchen garden, and when I say Akbar, I mean Akbar the emperor, and he could afford this. In his kitchen garden, the vegetables were being watered, not with water, but with rose water. And it was being assumed that the vegetables that would grow taking rose water would have a special fragrance. And whenever I get a chance to talk like this, I tell my friend that if you have any open space of land, please do this experiment and tell me that does the vegetable really taste different if it has been watered with rose water. The food that was being served to Akbar, it was being served in gold, silver, stone, and earthenware. Akbar was not an educated man, but Akbar was a man who depended on a lot of intelligent people, who depended a lot on a lot of specialists. Now there are some dishes which are very nice when it is being served in a silver utensil. There are some dishes which goes very well if it is being served in earthenware. For example, firni. If you served in earthenware, in bhar, it absorbs the fragrance of earth, and it adds a very nice dimension to firni. If you are having it, say, in a steel utensil, it may not be as delicious as it is being served in an earthenware. So these were some of the things that Akbar introduced. The Mughal rulers were very passionate about fruit, and one of the fruit that really took them and impressed them was mango. And perhaps the first instance of fruit grafting was during the time of Akbar, when he planted about 1 lakh mango trees in Darbhanga. Darbhanga is a town in northern Bihar, and that place was called Lakhi Bagh, and Akbar had planted about 1 lakh trees of mango. The days Akbar used to fast, it was a very special day for him, and Akbar was very superstitious also. So during the month when he came to power, he said that he would not eat non-veg food, and of course he didn't impose it on his subjects, but the month in which he came to power, the whole month he was vegetarian. He was very fond of khichdi. Yeah, it may come as a surprise to many that Emperor Akbar having khichdi, but yes, these people were also very health conscious, and they realized that in order to rule, it is very important that you should be physically and mentally fit. Khichdi, like as we all know, is something very light on stomach. It is easily digested. After Humayun came Jahangir, and Jahangir continued the same tradition which was being followed by Akbar, Humayun and Babur. But in the case of Jahangir, Jahangir's wife, who was known as Noor Jahan, was once again a very smart woman. And she used to receive a lot of foreign dignitaries in her court. And because of that, she used to get a lot of foreign influences, she got a lot of foreign ideas. And she was known for making legendary wines. Of course, she was a Muslim, but she made wines. And these rules are for ordinary people, and for king, queen, emperors, these rules doesn't exist. Noor Jahan was perhaps the only Mughal empress in whose name coins were being minted, and she was a very, very powerful figure in the court of Jahangir. She was also known for making, rainbow-colored yogurt. The dahi that she used to make, it was of rainbow color, and she was very fond of, designing food, and she used to design food making pretty patterns of rice powdered glazed with candied fruit peels. Once again, in the case of Jahangir, we see that, being a Muslim ruler, he was fond of drinking, but at the same time he liked khichdi also. And his grandson Aurangzeb, who was a very, very strict man, and he was being known for his austerity and frugality, he also loved khichdi. And so much so that when Aurangzeb came, and the khichdi became so popular that a new type of khichdi developed, which was known as the Alamgiri khichdi. After Aurangzeb, after Jahangir, we have Shah Jahan, and we all associate Shah Jahan with Taj Mahal. But of course, Shah Jahan built Taj Mahal. There's no doubt about it. As a love, as an expression of his love for Mumtaz Mahal. And there are so many poetries in Urdu, which has immortalized Taj Mahal. There have been so many films, and anyone who goes to Agra would like to click a picture sitting in front of Taj Mahal. But Shah Jahan, once again, he did something which created a new dimension in the Mughlai cuisine. He shifted his capital from Agra to Shah Jahanabad. He found Agra to be overcrowded. Yes, Shah Jahan found Agra to be overcrowded. I wonder if Shah Jahan would come now, what would he say about Agra? Anyway, so when he shifted his capital from Agra to Shah Jahanabad, he got the news that a lot of people were falling ill. So he called his Hakim and he said that, please find out why these people are falling ill. And his Hakims, they went on to find out why people were falling ill. And they discovered that the water of Shah Jahanabad is not conducive for human consumption. But by then it was too late for Shah Jahan to shift back his capital from Shah Jahanabad to Agra, or to find a new place. So he told his Hakim that please do something in order to make the water fit for human consumption. I don't want the people should fall ill. I want that people should live here in Shah Jahanabad, carry on their activities, and at the same time stay healthy. Now these Hakims were modern day chemists, and and they were people who were highly talented, and they believe in a lot of research, and they came up with this idea that if turmeric, red chili, cumin and coriander, red chili, coriander, cumin and turmeric is added in food, it will become very, very healthy. It will destroy all the bacteria, all the infections that you get in food, and that is what the chef started doing. And as a result, the water, the impurities that were being found in water were negated. Let me have a glass of water. This is not from Shah Jahanabad, this is from Calcutta. But you see, what happened was, when turmeric, red chili, coriander, and cumin was added, the Mughlai food till this period was very, very bland. Those of you, who had the opportunity of visiting Central Asia would know that even now the Central Asian food is very bland. The general impression is that it's very rich. But truly Mughlai or Awadhi cuisine may be rich to look at, but it will be very light on your stomach and it will be easily digested. That is one of the important qualities of Mughlai food. So when all these were added, turmeric, coriander, cumin, red chili, the food became a little hot. And later on, tomatoes were added. So as a result, the cuisine became red. It became more redder in appearance. And this was an important dimension in the Mughlai cuisine. And from here, the Mughlai cuisine was no longer bland. The food that was being cooked for Shah Jahan, 50% of the water that was being taken from the river, because some of these Mughal rulers were very passionate about rivers, because they realized that all the great civilizations of the world survived on the banks of different rivers, and for them river was considered to be something very, very sacred. Of course, they never worshipped river, but they had very high regards for river, because a lot of battles, a lot of wars were decided on the basis of proximity to river and who could move their army quickly over the river. Shah Jahan would always set a portion of the food before he started eating, and this portion of food was being given to poor. So his logic was that before I eat, a portion of the food should be given to someone who's hungry, and that is how he would start his meal. And after he finished his meal, he would sit on the dastarkhan for a long time, and he would like to chat and talk and exchange ideas. Then comes Aurangzeb, who was very frugal in his approach, and he used to have very simple food. A lot of people may not know, but Aurangzeb, for whatever he was, he fancied vegetarian dishes, and two of his important dishes were Panchratan Dal and khichdi. He was very, very fond of them. And the book that Aurangzeb had written, which is known as Rukat-e-Alamgiri, which is a letter from Aurangzeb to his sons. Over there he has mentioned that his favorite dish was khubuli. Khubuli is a type of pulao which is being cooked with Bengal gram, basil and curd. And his vegetarian diet was mainly confined to fruits. He was very fond of fruits. Akbar, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb, they were very, very all fond of fruit. It has been reported that once relations were being soured between Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb, because Aurangzeb was supposed to send some good quality mangoes to Shah Jahan, and the crop had failed in those days, and Aurangzeb could not send. So Shah Jahan felt that the crop had not failed and Aurangzeb had eaten those mangoes and he has not given it to me. So you can understand that how passionate they were about the fruit. When Humayun was on the run, he established a courier system where fruits were being delivered to him from Hindustan to Kabul. Rulers like Jahangir and Shah Jahan, they awarded their Khansama. Khansama are the royal cooks for the unique creation, and some of the the dishes that they made with mangoes were aam panna, aam ka lauz, and aam ka meetha pulao. Like pulao where you have mango in it, pieces of mango, which is considered to be a delicacy. Unfortunately, some of these dishes have been lost. The recipes have been lost, the people's tastes have been different. They no longer eat those dishes which were popular at that point of time. But the important thing was that these people they were very passionate about fruits, and mango was definitely one of them. The other one was pineapple. Pineapple was considered to be a status symbol, or in many parties, there was a dastarkhan. Dastarkhan is a tablecloth where people, which has been spread on the floor and people sit and eat on it. Pineapple would occupy the center space. It was being kept in the center, and the first piece of pineapple was given to the most important guest. When I talk about dal, there are two things which I would like to mention. There was a chef in the time of Asaf-ud-Daula. Asaf-ud-Daula was the fourth Nawab of Awadh, and his speciality was that he could cook very good dal. So he came to the court of Asaf-ud-Daula and said that I can cook very good dal, and Asaf-ud-Daula was quite impressed by his confidence, and Asaf-ud-Daula recruited him. And before the recruitment could take place, this chef said that but I have a condition. Now it takes a lot of courage to tell a Nawab that I would like to work for you, but I have a condition. So Asaf-ud-Daula wanted to hear what the condition was, and the chef said that whenever I cook dal for you, I'll inform you, and you must come and have dal. And Asaf-ud-Daula found it very strange, but anyway he agreed. And one fine day, Asaf-ud-Daula told this chef that this afternoon we would like to have dal for lunch. And this cook cooked dal, and after the dal was cooked, he went and informed Asaf-ud-Daula. And Asaf-ud-Daula was busy. He said, okay, I'll be coming shortly. And he didn't come. And then again, after some time, again the chef sent the message that he has heated dal. Asaf-ud-Daula again said that I'll be coming soon. He didn't come. So this went on for the third time, and the chef was so disgusted with the whole thing that he left the job. And it has been said, of course I personally feel that it is an exaggeration, that he took that pot of dal which he had cooked, and while he was leaving the palace of Asaf-ud-Daula, he came across a tree which had almost died, and he threw that dal at the roots, and after a few weeks the tree came back to life. Anyway, we don't know whether it is a fact, but I personally feel it's an exaggeration. But the important thing is that that was the importance given to dal, to chef, and to food. There was another chef in the Awadhi dynasty who used to cook dal adding gold mohar. Just imagine a mohar of gold was being cooked along with dal, and that dal was supposed to be extremely delicious, and it had a lot of properties which naturally normal dal would not have. One of the distinctive features of the Mughlai cuisine is that the unique use of combination of spices. The spices which are being added in the Mughlai cuisine, some of them are added as ground spices, and some of them are added as whole spices. And I often tell my friend that the spices that are added, it's added in a particular proportion, and apart from the proportion, it has to follow a certain sequence. So if you are adding spices A, B, C, you may add the three spices, but if the sequence is wrong, if it is say C, B, A, then the effect will also be different. It was very important to add the spices in the correct proportion and also in the correct sequence, which the Awadhi and the Mughlai chefs used to follow it very, very accurately, and that is why you had such nice, such delicious, such fascinating dishes. There are many things which we eat every day, but we don't realize that some of these dishes came from different parts of the world. And one of the things is rose water. Rose water is something very, very common. Kyora is Indian, but rose water came from Persia. And in Persia, there are two places where the rose cultivation takes place. These are places called Kamsar and Naisar. In these two places, the roses are plucked early morning, because it has been said that early morning the scent of roses are at its best. So they are being plucked, the petals are separated, and then it goes through a different process. So the best quality of vapor that is being collected, it is being used for rose water, and the second quality is being used for itar, which a lot of men used when they are wearing shalwar kameez or kurta pajama. In Iran, there is a system, where when water is given in finger bowl, they add a bit of rose, or if the rose water is not available, then they add a rose petal, and you know and in many places now also I see that in when we get finger bowl, either you find a rose petal or a piece of lemon, but the custom of adding rose water or a petal of rose came from Persia. One of the interesting things which I want to discuss with you is that some of the dishes that we eat every day, for example paratha. When these Muslim rulers came to our country, over different centuries, they basically had roti which was being cooked in tandoor, and over here they found that the chefs over here, they were very fond of puri, which they used to fry in ghee, and they came up with this idea that how it will be if we add ghee to this roti, and at some point of time few of the chefs decided to have this experiment. I always tell my friends that the best food came up because of an experiment, because of a disaster, because of someone had thought that A plus B is C, well let's try A plus C and see what happens, and this is what happened. So these Muslim chefs, they added ghee to their roti, and instead of cooking it in tandoor, they cooked it on a girdle, on tawa, and they came up with this paratha, and which they found it very, very interesting, and paratha became very popular, and and over a period of time you have different types of paratha. Similarly, very close to paratha is another dish which is called Shiruman. Shiruman is made with flour, refined flour, saffron, and milk is added, and of course some even add saffron. The good thing about Shiruman is that it lasts for a very, very long time. It has got a very long shelf life. So in olden days, when people used to travel from one place to another, the travel time used to be very long. So they used to carry Shiruman with them because it would last them, without getting spoiled. Shahi Tukra was one important dish in the Mughlai cuisine and the Awadhi cuisine. Shahi Tukra has a very fascinating history. Shahi Tukra is perhaps one of the only dish in the royal cuisine which developed as a dish of leftover. One of the Begums was very, very benevolent, and she used to get very sad whenever she used to see that food is being wasted. And she used to see that the rotis are being wasted and it is being thrown away. So she said, why you are throwing it away, give it to some poor people. And then it was being given to poor people. And then she realized that roti by itself would not serve any purpose. So she told her chef that instead of just giving roti away to poor people, why don't you make a sugary syrup, dip these roti in that sugary syrup, so that when they have roti, they'll find it to be sweet, like a sweet bun. And this is what it was being done. So the roti that was being left, it was being dipped in sugary syrup and it was being distributed. Then she told them that can you make it more interesting? And then they added saffron, they added a lot of other ingredients, dry fruits and all, and that evolved into Shahi Tukra. And today we know that Shahi Tukra is a very, very important aspect of the royal cuisine. The other interesting thing is, which came to my mind is Gulab Jamun. I often ask my friends, especially young friends, that you all love Gulab Jamun, but where is the Gulab in Gulab Jamun? Gulab is rose, there is no Gulab Jamun. Gulab Jamun came from Persia, and the very word Gulab, Gul means flower in Farsi, and Ab means water. So it is a kind of a ball which is being made of flour, milk powder, cardamom, saffron, and it is being dipped in sugary syrup. So rose water was added to it, and it looked like jamun. So that is why it was being called Gulab Jamun. And Gulab Jamun, we all know that it is very, very perhaps one of the most favorite desserts in our country. The other one is jalebi. Jalebi came from Middle East and Arab world, and it is a deep fried flour which is circular in shape, and it has been soaked in sugar syrup. Even today, jalebi is very popular in Arabia, and in Persian it's called zalebia. So next time, when you have Gulab Jamun, you have jalebi, you must try to think that, it came with some of the people who came from different parts of the world. Firni. Once again, firni is a very, very popular dish. It has been made with ground rice and milk, and it has been served cold. The other cousin of firni is kheer. Kheer is Indian, but firni came from Persia, and because of it has been they use ground rice, it's very smooth, so a lot of people prefer firni over kheer. And even today it's very popular in Iran, Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, that belt. Firni is extremely popular, and because firni was introduced in our country, and I think it was a close rival of kheer. There are some people, they prefer having kheer, and there are some people who prefer having firni. The other dish, which came from Persia, Middle East, was kalakand. Kand in Arabic means sweet, and it is a very delicious fudge made with sweetened and solidified milk and paneer. And kalakand, once again, is a very important part of our Indian dessert. Then is samai. Samai, once again, it's cooked in ghee with milk and a lot of dry fruits. It also came from the Persian and Middle East region, and it is very, very popular, especially during Eid season. Eid without samai is incomplete. It's like Durga Puja without pandal hopping. It's almost like that. The other dish which came to our country from Middle East, Persia, was halwa. Halwa, there are different types of halwa, and when these people came to India, they realized that they can make halwa not only using chana and suji, but they can also make halwa using different vegetables. You have this beetroot, you have carrot halwa, you have pumpkin halwa, and there are so many varieties in halwa. So halwa, once again, is a very, very important part of the Indian dessert. The other one is faluda. It's a cold dessert which is made of vermicelli, rose syrup, and it has been at time topped with ice cream. Those who want to have it, a heavy dose of faluda. And faluda once again becomes very, very popular during summer months. Before I end, I would like to mention a dish. I have mentioned so many sweet dish, and the other dish which is very common, which perhaps a lot of us eat every day, is the samosa, which in Bengal we call it singhara. This came from Middle East, and in Middle East it is called sambosa, and it has been initially it was being filled with potatoes, but now because of different variations and fusion food, you have different types of samosa and singhara, and some of these singhara that are available in high-end shops are really very heavy. It has a lot of ingredients, but the humble samosa too has its origin in Middle East. And before I conclude, one of the things that I never miss is that I quote a line from Babar, which Babar has said: "Enjoy the luxuries of life, Babar, for the world is not going to be had a second time." So dear friends, next time when you enjoy all these dishes, just close your eyes for a minute and think for a second. All those chefs, all those rulers, all those rulers' wives, all those common people who contributed to the growth, origin and evolution of these lovely dishes that we are enjoying today, and bless them. Thank you very much. It was great talking to you, and see you soon. Bye-bye.